Please join me to welcome Thomas Davis from the University of Rotterdam, share the update news from the university. Hi, Thomas.
Isabelle, thank you for inviting me here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
No worries.
So are you going to share any update news from Notre Dame University today?
Yeah, so I have a few updates to tell you, most specifically about the Master of Teaching course. So we have some new updates about that course with some different entry requirements that we've recently released, and a few other things as well that we have generally going on at the university.
Is there any big news for the teaching course today? Yeah. Or?
There is. So I guess the big news is that we are now accepting as an English, a medium of instruction for English or an English waiver, students that have completed at least 3 years bachelor degree in Australia can no longer have to sit IELTS.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. So
is that happening now? Or?
Yeah, so for 2023 intake, so February 2023, July 23 onwards, if a student has done their bachelor degree in Australia for 3 years or more, they don't have to sit the IELTS. So yeah, really cool.
Hey, that is a great news and big news. So if the client study not in Australia, probably in the United States, would it count it as well or only Australia?
So there is such thing as what we call approved countries, which are recognised by the Teacher Registration Board in Australia, and the USA, UK, Ireland, and Canada are recognised as approved countries. And so if they've done a degree in those countries, they also can be exempt from English too.
Alright.
If they've done it in another country, which is a non-approved country by the Teacher Registration Board, the student will have to sit for IELTS exam.
It will still be 7788.
That's correct, yeah.
Does Notre Dame accept PTE?
We will be going to as well, so that will be the next step as well. So with these changes to the English requirements, as I just mentioned, we'll also be bringing in the PTE. I'll be able to update you further about what the actual number scores will be in the PTE, but more or less will be equivalent to what the IELTS scores are. So, yeah.
So what is the requirement of the course, the Master of Teaching, rather than English? Is there any other requirements for that?
Yeah, sure. So there are a few other requirements, not just English. So obviously to get into, so there's two courses we have. There's the primary course and the secondary course. So I'll talk about primary first.
Yeah.
So for primary, you just need to have a completed 3-year bachelor degree from your home country or from Australia or from any approved country which has a similar level to Australia. So it has to be equivalent. If it is 3 years and it's equivalent, that will meet the academic for primary. Of course, there's also to meet the English. So again, as we just mentioned with the English, there's also the statement of purpose as well. This is different to the normal statement of purpose you have to do for your visa. This is called the teaching or education statement of purpose. It's basically 4 questions which talk about why the student wants to become a teacher, and it basically asks them about their desire to be a teacher, their background in dealing with students or sort of their goals in that regard, what they see themselves doing outside of teaching or after they completed their degree, and a few other things as well. So there's that. That's not really a pass-fail sort of thing. That's just so the School of Education at the university can find out more about the person's individual needs, their individual desires and goals, so we can help them achieve that. So if they say, I really want to work with younger children or I want to work with middle school children, we can then help them in their practical to go and work with those type of children. So that's the statement of purpose. Then there are one other thing, which is not an admission requirement, but it's what we call an inherent requirement throughout the degree. There's a federal government test that's called the LAN-TITE test. It's basically a literacy and numeracy test, so a maths and English test that all teachers have to do. Domestic student, local student, international student, any student who wants to be a teacher has to do this test. And that's done in the first year of the course, but that's done after. Yeah.
So without this one, they still accept the application as you get offer letter and condition and stuff like that.
Yeah. So that's just part of the teaching degree, but same for bachelor, same for masters, that all teaching students have to do, but you do it when you're in the course. So you don't have to have already done it and to apply. So they're the main requirements really. Of course, then there's the usual things like the GT and stuff like that that come later, but that's all on a country by country basis and a case by case basis. But yeah, so the bachelor degree for primary can be in any area. It doesn't have to be in a particular field for primary. as long as it has sort of, a similar some of the classes they would have done in their degree are similar to what they would do in teaching.
So that's not necessary that the student have to complete a maths passing rate like 60 and above.
So normally it's 50%, so just the pass we say normally. But for example, people that have done engineering, they can become teachers, not like they're excluded, so they can do that. So that's primary. For secondary, it's a slight bit different. So for secondary, of course, still 3-year bachelor degree Australian equivalent, either here or overseas. But with secondary, the way the course works is that it's different to primary, because primary you learn the whole curriculum throughout the whole 2 years. For secondary, because you're teaching at a higher level, at an older child level, at 12 to 18 years old, you need to focus basically on teaching in 2 areas. We call them the major and minor teaching areas. So the major teaching area is drawn from your main part of your bachelor degree. So for example, in my case, my degree, I did a Bachelor of Arts, and my first area was communications and media. So if I was going to be a teacher, I would have media studies as my what they call major teaching area, or English as well, because of the number of classes in that. And that's what you teach from year 7 to year 12. Then you need to have this minor teaching area, which will then can be the secondary part. So for me, I did politics, international relations as my second part. So in that regard, from year 7 to year 10, that's what they call humanities. So then you have your 2 teaching areas. So you can teach across 2 areas of a school, because that's what principals and schools are looking for. So the way that's assessed is that the student will submit the transcript to Aussizz. Aussizz will then send the whole application to us, and then we'll send that transcript to our School of Education, who will then let us know what areas the student can teach. So that's sort of how it works.
I see. Are there any different entry requirements besides that just you mentioned?
That's the main one for secondary. So it's just that not every bachelor degree can get into secondary, because you need to have the major and minor teaching area. But for example, engineers, they have a lot of maths and a lot of science. So they can be maths and science teachers at school. So they actually, engineers, more or less most of the time can do secondary. We found that in the past. But someone who perhaps has just done a straight IT degree or a nursing degree, for example, it might be hard for them to do secondary because they won't have a secondary teaching area. But the School of Education, Notre can assess and let the student know. If they're still set on doing secondary, we can offer them some short courses, which can get them extra classes to meet that teaching area. So there can be options if students are on non-student visas, for example, like 485 or something else. But if they're on a student visa, it might be that they have to do a graduate diploma, for example, or something else to make up that gap they might need to do, or they can just choose to do primary. So these are the options.
That's no entry requirement, stuff like that. So if a student will complete the Bachelor of Business, they definitely can go into Master of Teaching secondary, right?
More or less, because most business courses will have the 2 different areas. So it's about major and minor, because some degrees are so specialized that you only have one big area you learn, where like things like Bachelor of Commerce, Bachelor of Business, Bachelor of Arts, they normally have quite a lot of electives, so you do quite a bit of different things all over. So normally those type of students can. So it just depends really, but we'll look at it every time, and the School of Education Australia will let us know, okay, you can be an English and maths teacher, a science and humanities teacher, or whatever they decide, that's what they'll be, because you don't have time to learn extra stuff. You just do all the curriculum stuff, classes, throughout the course. So it's quite a fast-paced course, but that's sort of how it works.
So do you want to provide some positive update in the admission process of Uni of Notre Dame, like, in terms of how long is the processing time and stuff like that when we submit applications? So nowadays, I know that application is the admission is a bit slower turnaround time rather than compared to post-COVID.
Yeah, sure. Of course, because we get a lot more applications now, it's getting a lot busy, which is great. Obviously, we can't complain. So usually I'd hope if every document is submitted for 10-day turnaround, if possible. Sometimes if we might be waiting for, like, say, the school to assess a transcript, that can sometimes delay us by a couple of days, but hopefully we can at least turn around for conditional offer within that period.
10 to 15 days.
If not quicker, the conditional offer can be a lot quicker if everything's there. For example, if we're just waiting for an English result for an overseas student, we make this conditional offer for that. But most onshore students, if they apply for primary, for example, we could probably turn around the offer within 10 days. In the busy period, which is now November, December, January is a busy period.
Yeah.
But in the non sort of busy periods, we can hopefully be quicker, like that 5 days. So yeah, hopefully, but especially for you guys here at Aussizz, I try and be a lot quicker.
Thank you.
And try and get it turned around in less than a working week, so 5 days. So if the client is really wanting an offer, we just need just a couple of days, I guess, to assess, and we can try our best to get the offer.
Right, okay. Talking about the English requirements, so that you mentioned that onshore students can get the waiver of English if they've done a bachelor degree. What about offshore clients? We have lots of offshore clients who look for, coming to Australia and study, but sometimes they're struggling with English and stuff like that. Especially you need 7, 7, 8, or 9 hours.
Yeah. So I guess if that's the case, it depends. If they've studied it, obviously they've studied it before in Australia or an approved country, then they don't need to.
Yep.
If they're coming from offshore, of course, they will unfortunately sit the English, or fortunately need to sit the English test beforehand as per the regulations of the teacher board. But they can do combination English tests as well. So if a student perhaps gets a couple of scores good in the first one, but maybe is a bit lacking on that second other areas.
How many combinations does Notre accept? Like 2 or 3 or?
So it's normally 2 combinations.
2 within 6 months. Is it?
That's correct. Yeah. So that's usually what we do. And normally you find that students are a little bit in one band. If they go back again, they're usually quite good to get that again. So yeah, but I understand that the teaching score is quite high, so it might take students a couple of attempts to get to where they need to. But that's why I recommend if they do their bachelor degree in Australia, they won't have this problem.
So recommend them to do bachelor before going to master.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, if they come in as a younger student or even a mature age student, if they can. We have the Bachelor of Education as well, which is a 4-year program. But if they've done something like a business course in Australia, if they want to do that, that can also help as a pathway as well. So but it's always tricky, case by case for every student.
True, fair enough. So can you tell me a little bit more of what makes Notre unique, and can you please highlight on your campus and what are the facilities provided to the students?
Yeah, sure. So we have 2 campuses. We have Perth campus in Fremantle and the Sydney campus, which is in Broadway area, it's called. And so both of those have the teaching course and also many other courses in things like nursing, business, arts, medicine, various other courses like that. So very popular campuses to study at. They're very unique campuses. So our campus in Perth is in like I said, Fremantle, a very historic part of Perth.
Yeah, we've been there like so many different building frequency in the different areas.
Yeah,
so huge.
Exactly. So it has very nice appeal, looks very nice, but inside the old buildings are quite modern facilities. So for example, for teaching, we have 2 sort of main buildings for teaching in the Fremantle campus. Inside, they're very modern. They've got very modern facilities, very modern computer labs, lecture theatres, tutorial rooms. For our early childhood students, we have a sort of early childhood room, which is quite like an early childhood centre. So it looks like very nice. In our other sort of newer building, we have a sort of science lab for experiments for primary school students. Like if you're doing the primary degree, they have it looks like a classroom, I guess, from a school. And we also have very other modern facilities. So if you're doing things like science, we have our biology labs, or different microscopic labs. We have our nursing school, which has modern facilities inside there. Our medicine school, the same. And also, of course, we've got 3 libraries on the Fremantle campus, so 3 different libraries. We have a big student common room called Printable Hall. It's quite modern. It has really good facilities for students to study, to hang out with their friends. There's a place to make your lunch, all of those things that students can come together. And then we have lots of courtyards in the Fremantle campus, so it's very nice.
Especially this weather, right? Close to summer.
Yeah. And so they're very nice. So lots of places to hang out, sit under trees, study, chat to your friends, get the cool breeze off the ocean coming through. It's quite nice. And that's the main thing as well, is that we're very close to the ocean, to the beach, the Fremantle campus. So that has, a great aspect to it. You can walk around the beach on your lunch break in between classes,
Nice.
relaxing
Nice.
between exams or
So chill,
assignments.
right?
Yeah, definitely. And then in Sydney, again, it's a bit different. It's a city campus, so it's in the heart of Sydney CBD, I guess you would call it. So very different style, but very old buildings again, with very modern inside. And again, lots of different courtyards, places to hang out, great facilities in the buildings, but a very different type of campus, a lot more of a city urban feel compared to a more relaxed, coastal feel, I suppose.
Yeah.
But they both offer very similar courses, more or less quite the same, especially with teaching, equally the same. So yeah, I would say that the campus is what made the university unique, but also other things are our student support. One of the biggest things that we like to tell students is that we are a very student-focused university. So we have very small class sizes. So we try and make it so the students can feel comfortable asking questions, getting to know their professors and their teachers and their fellow students, so they can have a real authentic experience and not feel like they're just a number, but they're one of many people who we care about. So that's what the small class sizes and the feel of the university we try to do. And also with all of our courses, especially the teaching course, we have a very big focus on industry practical, so the internships. In the Master of Teaching, we have 2 10-week internships, so one in year 1 and one in year 2. Each of 10 weeks each, where a student will go to a school and be a student teacher. So
is it arranged by Notre Dame?
It is,
It's part of it, right?
So it's part of the program. It's all students who enter the program are guaranteed this placement. So as long as they can meet the requirements beforehand, pass their classes to go, they go on placement, and it's based off their residential address. So it's not going to be based, so if you're, let's say, live here in Perth, you won't be going to somewhere 40 kilometres away. It'll be more less than 10 kilometres away. So they try and place a student near where they live, not in the same suburb, because you don't want to be going to the supermarket and seeing all your students there all the time, but they try and place you near enough so you don't have to travel too far, and you can have a great experience. A teacher who's working at that school, and they act as their what we call mentor teacher, and they mentor them through. So they'll work together with that teacher. The main teacher will take the class for the first couple of weeks, and the student teacher will watch, help out, sort of get learning feel for the students, understanding how others.
Really practical, hands-on.
Yeah, and then about halfway through that 10 weeks, the student teacher will then switch, and they'll take over the class, and they'll lead the class. They'll do all the lessons. Do all of that stuff.
Would it be in a private school or?
It's a mix. So one good thing about Notre Dame is that we are the only university in Perth that can give students a chance to work in all 3 school sectors in Australia. So in Australia, there's the government schools, so the state schools, which are the majority of schools. Then there are the independent schools, so your different independent schools, and then there's also the Catholic private schools as well. So we can give students the opportunity to teach in all 3 of those because of the different accreditations that our teaching degree has. So students can go on track to a government school 1 year and then to a private school the next year, and they get to experience the different types of schools.
Very different.
Yeah.
So the courses that you just mentioned about the Master of Teaching, how many intakes are available? Similar to the unis, like 2 intakes, or there's a trimester?
It's a 2 intake course. So it has the February course. So the February 2023 course starts at the beginning of February. So I believe it's actually the 30th of January, but it's the first week of February it always starts. And then the July one starts around the middle of July. So we have the 2 intakes per year. And that's sort of how it works.
Right. So would you share when will be the cutoff day, like for February intake, let's say 1st of February. So last application date will be?
Probably I'd say the middle of January. So it probably give us a couple of weeks to do it. I think we have to finalise all of our enrolments for this course by around late January to the school. And we want to give the students the best chance of success. So we want them to be ready for the course and understand what they need to do, because it is a fast-paced course. It goes for the 2 years, but you're having to learn a lot. And there's always the practical coming on the horizon to go to the school. So we want to prepare our students that they have enough experience of what it's like to be a teacher in terms of lesson planning, behavioral management, curriculum, learning the materials they have to learn, all of the big things that teachers have to know. We want to prepare them for that as soon as we can. So I would say, yeah, mid-January would be the cutoff for February, and then I'd say mid-June again before the July intake.
Cool. Right. So what are the range of courses that Notre Dame is running from undergrad level to postgrad?
Yeah, so I guess some of the big courses we run, Bachelor of Nursing course is a very popular.
Very popular courses.
Yeah, very popular.
So it's so limited and so filled up quickly.
Yeah, so I definitely recommend if any clients want to do nursing, definitely to contact Aussizz as soon as they can, so they can get their application in. So at least we can reserve a spot for that student. That's often Sydney and Perth campus, so we have seats on both. So definitely if students are interested in studying in either part of the country, we can do. Very popular course. That's a 3-year course, which gets you the registered nursing qualification. Yeah, very popular course. We also have the Bachelor of Commerce, which is becoming more popular, I guess, as time goes on. So we have lots of areas people can study: accounting, finance, management, marketing.
Different major.
Soon, hopefully, IT will be coming in that course. So that'll be something new for the university. Hopefully in 2024 that will be arriving. So that's quite popular. We have the MBA at the postgraduate level with business. Again, quite a popular course.
Yeah, MBA was a popular course.
We don't require work experience for that course, so student can come straight from bachelor into MBA. So that's a 2-year course. We have the Master of Counselling, which is also a really popular 2-year course. So that one again has practical again to the 2nd year for that course, and then you qualify as a counsellor at the end. We also have Bachelor of Counselling as well. Then we have all the Bachelor of Teaching courses that we have. We have an early childhood course in bachelor level. We don't have it at master of teaching level, but we have the Bachelor of Education in early childhood, primary and secondary. And then finally, I guess at postgrad, we have the medicine course. So the Doctor of Medicine, which is a 4-year postgraduate MD qualification. So they're some of our more famous courses. We also have lots of other areas as well in law, philosophy, other arts areas like I did communications and media, or politics, or behavioral science, psychology is a new course we're having. So lots of cool courses that students can do. It just depends what people's interests are, I guess.
Yeah, true.
What they want to do.
So are there any entry requirement differences between onshore and offshore clients?
Normally, they're probably the same. It's only really some GTE things are a little bit different. So if you're applying from onshore, potentially don't need to show your financial evidence as much. If you're applying from offshore from certain markets, you might have to. Just as the rule, I guess the government's rules can't help that. But more or less, they're quite the same. We try and keep it quite similar, quite fair across the board, really, for onshore, offshore. So it's really mostly the GTE sort of aspect. For onshore, it's a bit less rigorous. And I guess, like I said at the very beginning, if you have an Australian Bachelor's degree, you don't have to take English tests. So that helps if you've studied here or in a approved country. But yeah, more or less they're the same, really. I guess, yeah, I'd say that's probably the difference.
So for onshore client, you don't need to show funds for applications, and on offshore, you will need to show funds, but GTE will remain the same.
Yeah, more or less, yeah. It's just, I guess the funds are, because you're already here in Australia, you know, we know that you've shown the funds already to the government to come here, and you would already have some working here and things like that. So normally we're a bit more, what's the word, relaxed, I guess, with that. Where with offshore, of course, we have to follow the government rules, so very different. But look, when Notre Dame loves to treat each person as unique, and love to do each application case by case. So we've never make some blanket statement for every student. We love to sort of look at each person individually and make our determinations on their own personal situation. So you'll see our application form. It does have a little bit of a GTE section, but that's also so we can get to know the client as well. And yeah, so that's what we can do.
Cool. So last question, Thomas. Are there any scholarship available?
Yeah, so we have quite a few scholarships nowadays. So I'll go through them all because I know time's ticking, but I'll go through them all. So the first one we have is the Notre Dame Undergraduate Welcome Scholarship. So this is for all undergraduate courses, all bachelor courses except Bachelor of Nursing. And students for this one will get a 25% tuition discount off their fees for each year of their course.
Oh, okay.
So it can be for 3, 4 years, 5 years for double
That's
degrees.
a very good scholarship for the
Yeah,
students.
so that's really good. So, and there's no separate application. They just have to meet the minimum entry requirements for academic and English and GT, and they'll get that scholarship. So that's given out.
So the student don't need to apply for it?
No.
It will just automatically implement in the offer letter.
That's correct. So the offer letter, when they get that, they'll see it's been applied to their fees then, and then any subsequent offers, payments they make, it will be there.
Okay.
The second scholarship we have is the undergraduate nursing welcome scholarship. This one is 20% discount, so very similar, but it's 20%. And again, same thing, no separate application, goes for all 3 years of the nursing degree. And yeah, they get it just on the offer stage. The next one we have is the postgraduate coursework scholarship. So the Master of Teaching course falls into this category. That's a 20% discount as well. Same rules apply, goes for all 2 years. And that's not just Master of Teaching, but things like Master of Counselling, MBA, Master of Architecture, any postgraduate by coursework, not the research ones, but the coursework.
Yeah.
And then finally, we have our newest scholarship, which is the Business Undergraduate Scholarship. That one is a flat $10,000 discount off their annual fee. So that's the best monetary scholarship we have, I guess. So $10,000 straight off the course. So the course ends up going from around 31,000 to roughly around 21,000
Really a good deal
per year. Yeah, so that's our newest scholarship that we've brought in. So hopefully that will be a popular one. It only launched this month in November. So
it applied for 2023.
yeah, so that's the first intake we'll be applying for this. So all business undergraduate students. So that can be for commerce, accounting, anything they do in business, human resources, business administration, any of those courses, they'll get the $10,000 discount. So yeah, they're the 4 scholarships we have. We have a couple in research, but they are, I guess, a bit more tricky to talk about. Maybe we'll talk about that at a different time.
You want to know more about scholarship? Contact us. So thank you, Thomas, today for sharing all the courses and the latest scholarship, as well as the breaking news as you don't need English requirement to actually study Master of Teaching wherever you hold a bachelor degree equivalent to Australian degree.
That's correct.
Right.
Well, if we can take one question, there's a person who asked, what's the age limit? If you can give some.
Yeah, so I guess for most of our courses, we don't have a strict set age limit. I guess we'll look more at the person's profile at a case-by-case basis. So we don't normally get that many students coming to us who are sort of over 50, for example. Most of them are under 40. But if there are students who are over a certain age, I guess, which is not as common to get international students or student visa holders, we'll look at it a case by case. I just need to know more depth about their profile. So may ask for a resume, ask for a further statement of purpose. But there's no such age limit as such. It's just individual, I guess, case by case assessment. Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas, for today. So any students or any client who are interested to submit application to Notre Dame, study in Notre Dame, contact Aussizz Group. Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, everybody.